As Israel undertakes its complex military campaign in the region, targeting adversaries on multiple fronts, concerns are intensifying regarding the potential for widespread destabilization. Israeli airstrikes have focused on Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and ongoing attacks against Hamas in Gaza. Tel Aviv maintains that these actions are legitimate defensive measures within its national defense strategy. However, the mounting civilian casualties raise urgent questions about the prospect of sustained resistance that could extend beyond the region and pose a threat to global security. Fears that Israel's conflict in Gaza may escalate into a large-scale regional war affecting global peace have been evident since tensions escalated. These concerns were underscored this weekend as Israel enacted large-scale attacks, including bombings in densely populated areas, the elimination of prominent Hezbollah and Hamas leaders in Lebanon, and the displacement of over 1 million civilians, indicative of significant escalation. Furthermore, Israel has expanded its campaign to Yemen, targeting Houthi positions, asserting an unwavering commitment to countering its adversaries. The critical inquiry now is the extent of Israel's actions and the potential risk they pose to the possibility of a third world war. This video will explore this issue. In the past 48 hours, the conflict in Lebanon has intensified, highlighted by the death of Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, a key Iran-backed group in Lebanon since 1992. His demise in a significant Israeli strike on Hezbollah's underground headquarters in Beirut marks a pivotal shift in Israel's strategy, impacting not only Gaza but the wider region. The elimination of Nasrallah is viewed as crucial for achieving long-term strategic objectives, including the safe return of northern Israelis and diminishing Hezbollah's influence. With Nasrallah's absence, Hezbollah may struggle to maintain its military efficacy in Lebanon and surrounding areas. To counter this potential resurgence, Tel Aviv has initiated bold measures, though the long-term ramifications of Nasrallah's death and Israel's extensive conflict in the Middle East remain uncertain. In light of recent Israeli attacks on senior Hezbollah figures, utilizing various methods of targeted elimination, Hezbollah's internal security apparatus faces grave challenges. The death of Nasrallah, a pivotal figure in the anti-Israel resistance movement, signifies a crucial transformation in the organization's leadership and strategic direction. In response to these challenges, Hezbollah is anticipated to undergo significant restructuring in the coming months, marking a unique period of uncertainty since its establishment in 1982. Israel is intensifying its coordinated assassination campaigns, extending efforts against not only Hezbollah leaders but also Hamas and Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC. Airstrikes on the Houthi-controlled port of Hodeidah in Yemen are part of a broader regional initiative to weaken Hezbollah and its allies. One of Nasrallah's likely successors is his cousin, who has held significant political roles and served on the military's top council. He has pledged to retaliate, cautioning that a counter-attack is imminent. Meanwhile, Israel continues its objective of neutralizing Hezbollah to facilitate the return of hundreds of thousands of Israelis to the north. However, the potential for a broader military operation raises concerns. While some view Nasrallah's death as an opportunity, many Lebanese express fears that escalation could lead to all-out war, severely impacting their daily activities. Even commonplace tasks, such as grocery shopping or visiting friends, are now approached with caution. Israeli military officials are preparing for a limited operation in southern Lebanon. Although Israel seeks to avoid a full-scale invasion, many analysts contend that Hezbollah is currently at its weakest point in over 4 decades, presenting a unique opportunity for Israel. Nonetheless, the risks involved and the threat of retaliation from Iran render the consequences of Tel Aviv's actions highly uncertain. Questions have arisen regarding border tensions and the Lebanese army's role in the event of an Israeli invasion. Some advocate for the Lebanese army to intervene to protect national borders, but the reality is that it faces significant limitations. Years of underfunding, understaffing, and undersupply have markedly diminished its combat capabilities. Additionally, disillusionment among personnel, many of whom are underpaid, has further compromised its effectiveness. While the UNIFIL presence in the region is anticipated to play a more pronounced role in peacekeeping and preventing escalation, its influence remains limited. There is ongoing debate about whether the Lebanese army can or should engage in military defense under these circumstances. Critics argue that it was primarily established for peacekeeping, and any involvement in conflict could lead to substantial casualties. Without concerted diplomatic action from Lebanese leadership, the situation appears increasingly dire. Though Lebanese officials have expressed intent to implement UN Security Council Resolution 1701, it may be too late to avert escalation. Israel, capable of launching a ground invasion, seems to have lost faith in the United Nations, a sentiment reinforced in its recent addresses at the General Assembly. The current circumstances bear resemblance to the events of 1982, when Israel occupied southern Lebanon, resulting in a prolonged conflict with significant repercussions for both Lebanon and the Israel Defense Forces, IDF. Historical lessons from the occupation, 1982-2000, indicate that such interventions strained Israeli resources and bolstered Hezbollah. However, concerns persist that Israel may not fully grasp the long-term implications of initiating a new campaign, particularly regarding the challenges of withdrawal once conflict commences. Israeli rhetoric implies that while it does not intend to occupy southern Lebanese territories, recent actions in Gaza and Yemen indicate a troubling shift. Attacks on civilian areas, such as the Kola roundabout in Beirut, have sparked discussions about Israel's military objectives in the region. This is particularly concerning given Lebanon's status as a sovereign state. Any unilateral intervention could be deemed a war crime, eliciting strong international condemnation, akin to the backlash faced by Russia during its invasion of Ukraine. The situation in Beirut remains complex, with no discernible indication that the Lebanese populace, particularly anti-Hezbollah factions, will support Israel's actions in either Gaza or Lebanon. While Hezbollah's involvement in the conflict since October 8 has not garnered unanimous support, the assertion that Lebanon is quietly endorsing Israeli military efforts to diminish Hezbollah is unequivocally incorrect. Lebanon's sovereignty faces significant threats, as Israeli drones have been operating over Beirut for weeks, contributing to an atmosphere of persistent tension. The urgency of the current environment has been amplified by warnings issued to residents regarding potential evacuations due to the imminent threat of attack. This context underscores the region's fragility and highlights the international community's indecision in safeguarding Lebanon's sovereignty. Recent reports of serious civilian casualties exceeding 1,000 fatalities indicate a troubling escalation. Israel's aggressive response, particularly in its engagements with Hamas and Hezbollah, has drawn widespread condemnation for violating human rights. Moreover, Israel's actions in Beirut constitute a clear infringement on sovereignty, underpinned by a prime minister facing indictment and a cabinet intent on extending its influence in Lebanon. Concerns are also mounting that Israel's military operations could inadvertently fortify Hezbollah, especially with the emergence of its younger leadership. Notably, following discussions with Hezbollah's chairman, Nabih Berri, the Prime Minister indicated that the party is open to considering a neutral presidential candidate acceptable to all stakeholders. Despite military pressures, Hezbollah is poised to remain a prominent political force in Lebanon. While it may be experiencing potential military setbacks, the organization has retained its political sway and has begun fostering improved relations with opposition groups such as the Lebanese forces, which historically opposed it during the civil war. These factions have expressed solidarity with Shia individuals displaced by the ongoing conflict, thus facilitating a possible reconciliation process. Reflecting on Israel's historical actions, particularly its disbanding of the Palestine Liberation Organization (PLO) and other Palestinian entities in Lebanon during the 1980s, one might question whether similar patterns are being repeated. However, Hezbollah continues to be deeply entrenched within the Shia community in Lebanon. While not all Shia constituents endorse Hezbollah, the organization remains the largest party in the Lebanese parliament and is unlikely to be easily dismantled, particularly through campaigns that result in substantial civilian casualties. Comparisons can be made with Israel's 1982 invasion of Lebanon, during which Israel received support from certain Lebanese factions to neutralize the PLO, perceived as a threat to Lebanese civilians through cross-border military operations. However, today's context has shifted significantly. There is no longer a prevailing consensus or backing for Israel's actions. The situation has been further complicated by strong international condemnation, including from the International Criminal Court regarding the Gaza conflict. Recent developments have elicited profound concerns over allegations of war crimes and the potential for genocide, which is unacceptable to the Lebanese populace, irrespective of their religious affiliations. There is an emerging consensus that such actions warrant unequivocal condemnation. Militarily, Israel's objective to dismantle its principal adversary is fraught with challenges. Historical lessons from previous conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan indicate that even powerful military forces have struggled to fully eradicate militant groups. Israel seems to be repeating similar missteps in Lebanon, complicating the realization of its ultimate goals. While it may succeed in neutralizing certain key Hezbollah leaders, a complete eradication of the organization remains improbable. The repercussions of this conflict extend beyond Lebanon and Israel. Israel's current undertakings in Houthi-controlled Yemen evoke comparisons to the US invasion of Iraq, which inadvertently facilitated the emergence of dangerous groups such as ISIS. Nevertheless, the likelihood of Israel generating similar unforeseen adversaries through actions outside Lebanon and Gaza appears limited. The current landscape largely reflects Iran's influence, facilitated through its proxies and allied factions in Iraq, Yemen, Syria, and Lebanon, all of which are fortified by substantial Iranian backing. Hezbollah, the most prominent of these entities, has benefited from Iranian and Syrian support for decades, enabling it to pursue both domestic and broader regional objectives. Looking ahead, much hinges on Iran's strategic decisions regarding defense. Recent leadership changes in Iran may indicate a potential willingness to engage in negotiations, increasing the probability of a favorable agreement with the United States. Such developments could have significant ramifications for the region, particularly concerning Iran's support for its proxies in ongoing conflicts. The Middle East remains unstable, with no clear trajectory for future events. Continuous monitoring of current dynamics is vital, especially to evaluate the potential emergence of new actors and their influence on the regional balance of power in the absence of a peace agreement. Heightened tensions with Iran have raised serious concerns, alongside growing uncertainty surrounding Tehran's responses. A pivotal issue involves Israel's escalated military actions against Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen, which could provoke a more vigorous reaction from the involved parties. Frustration is pervasive across various communities in Lebanon. The Christian community feels abandoned by the West, while the Sunnis express discontent towards the Arab world for its indifference. Even within the Shia community, animosity towards Iran is on the rise, despite Hezbollah maintaining its role in the axis of resistance. Many Lebanese individuals now experience feelings of isolation, with Syria remaining neutral and Iran asserting through statements that Hezbollah is capable of self-defense. This has fostered a sense of betrayal among some Shia. Unlike the 2006 conflict, when Lebanon garnered significant international support, the current scenario presents a stark contrast. Although Lebanon is still nominally part of the Iranian resistance axis, it effectively stands independent and isolated from the broader region. In addressing the military challenges confronting Israel, various diplomatic and political factors are influencing the conflict. On the international stage, Israel encounters a complex array of reactions from both nations and international organizations. Particularly in the United States, there are inquiries regarding whether Washington is implicitly endorsing Israel's actions aimed at reshaping the Middle East. Although previous strategies have faltered, the Biden administration's rapport with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu appears significantly more favorable than the distant relationship observed during President Obama's tenure. Despite appointing Senator George Mitchell as a special peace envoy, the Obama administration demonstrated reluctance to support Israel's actions, which rendered substantial military engagement under his leadership unlikely. Conversely, the Biden administration seems to overlook Israel's military initiatives while remaining cautious about direct involvement in the region, particularly in light of prior conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. Additionally, the increasing prominence and advocacy of the Arab American community highlight their capacity to exert pressure on the US administration to promote a peace process. This demographic evolution could substantially influence Washington's forthcoming policy decisions, potentially facilitating a significant shift in foreign policy strategy concerning the Middle East. Another crucial consideration is the potential impact on neighboring Lebanon and Syria. Amid Syria's enduring civil war, the government seeks to maintain stability while avoiding entanglement in regional conflicts. Nonetheless, Syria's alignment with Iran and Hezbollah poses risks of becoming a volatile flashpoint if Israeli military actions expand. Iran continues to express opposition to Israel's presence, providing financial and military support to organizations such as Hezbollah and Hamas. The involvement of global powers further complicates the situation, with Russia and China closely observing the conflict. Russia, due to its considerable influence in Syria, has cautioned Israel against broadening its military operations. Meanwhile, China, while adopting a neutral stance, holds the potential to intervene economically should the conflict disrupt oil supplies from the region. Internally, Israel faces significant dissent regarding its current military strategy. Some analysts and politicians contend that the Netanyahu government's actions perpetuate a continuous cycle of violence, while others advocate for intensified military pressure to eliminate threats from Hezbollah and Hamas. As military efforts persist, the polarization within Israeli society becomes increasingly apparent, especially regarding a conflict that, even if successful, would incur substantial costs. The absence of peace initiatives renders the prospect of a diplomatic solution exceedingly dim. Current conditions have led many international observers to express concern that the conflict may persist for numerous years, with unpredictable ramifications for both the region and the global landscape. What is your perspective on Israel's strategy of extending its military operations to multiple countries in the region, targeting not only Hezbollah and Hamas, but also the Houthis in Yemen? Can Tel Aviv effectively sustain a multi-front conflict while contending with significant international backlash? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. We encourage you to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to stay updated on the latest analysis and commentary. We look forward to your engagement in future videos.